All right, if you guys can log on to Kahoot, we'll get started in just a little bit. We're missing one.
I know it's on here every week.
This is as cold as I can make it. Yeah, I can't make it any colder. I tried.
What if get an external ACU? How it?
Gotta figure out how to duck that one out. All right, you guys ready? Let's take roll.
You can just blow into the back.
Julian, Giovanni, Hayden,
Here.
Gabriel, Ryan, Lily, Owen,
Here.
Paige, Lexi, Corbin,
Here.
Zeta, Kamaya, Tara, Wyatt, Serenity. What might be one missing? Angelina, Aiden, Cohen, Leland, Teo. I'm missing Teo too. Teo, you're here. You are here. There you go. Dakota. All right. We're getting this one. All right, let's get started on Kahoot. See if you guys remember last week.
I hope. Got it right here. Uh-oh.
Not a good start.
I wrote two things.
You must turn off your high beams for oncoming traffic within how many feet? 100, 200, 300, or 500? Oncoming traffic coming towards you.
Did we do this?
This will be on a test.
Previous one?
This will be on a test. Make sure
I
you
know,
guys know
we
it.
talked about this during the previous.
Make sure you guys know it. 500 feet. So oncoming traffic has to be 500 feet. That's them coming towards you. True or false? When it's freezing out, bridges are going to be less icy.
Up on one.
I feel like they got easier as the night went on when I'm doing this.
Or watch ice bridge on. I'm sorry.
It's a little off. False. Good job, guys. The bridges will be more icy quicker than the road.
I was reading it left to right, top to bottom.
True or false? In poor weather, the low beam should always be used. True. So if it's bad weather out, you should use your low beams not only for you to see, but for other people to see where you're at. So they can see you. Where should you look if you can't see from an oncoming car's high beams? So they're blinding you. Center of the road, right in front of the car where you're going, at the white line on the right side of the road, or in the rearview mirror until they pass. You can't see because you're being blinded from high beams. Where do you look?
I'm being blinded. Should I look at the blinding light? I look at the road.
Oh, wait.
Where at though?
This is.
The white line on the side of the road. Good job. Why do you want to clean your headlights and taillights in snowy weather? The snow will stop the bulb from working, so the lights are visible to others than you. The snow will crack the lens, or because snow is dirty. Why do you want to clean your headlights and taillights? There you go. Good job. Everyone got it. want to make yourself visible for other people to see. In a hydroplane, where do you want to steer? Away from the water, towards the water, where you want the car to go, or always to the right? Car starts hydroplaning, where do you want to steer?
It's horribly worded.
What? Where do you want the car to go?
Yes. Sanded one to no.
True or false? Anti-lock braking, ABS, will stop the car faster than a car without it. True. You have ABS, it'll stop the car quicker. Uses the computer on the car. True or false? The sun will have the same glare on a dirty windshield as a clean windshield. False. Dirty windshield is going to be a lot harder to see out of with sun glare. This button is called the defroster button, ABS button, hazard button, or pizza button.
Bit of a trust it orders a large pepperoni pizza from the nearest fucking pizza place.
Yeah, implement that.
Should. Yeah.
Hazard button, good job. Which one do you not want to do in a skid? Don't accelerate, don't brake, turn sharp to the right, steer where you want to go. What do you not want to do?
French off to the right because then you do a cool drift.
Well, it depends on which way it started. There you go. So if you're in a skid, you don't want to turn sharp to the right. Should you turn on your AC when defrosting your windshield? No, the AC is for cooling the car off. Yes, it'll help remove the fog faster. No, it will not help. I don't know when to use the AC.
Not gonna help.
It will help. So if you turn your were you paying attention? When you turn your defroster on, if you put the AC on, it's going to help remove the moisture in the air. It also helps if you crack your window just a little bit.
Go ahead. Oh man, I lost my first answer streak.
What does this light mean? Your vehicle's ready to go off-roading. Your heated tires are turned off.
Heated tires.
Traction control is off. Don't drive in a straight line.
You should have had heated tires in your car. Then we would give it.
Your tires do heat up when you're driving.
It should heat up as soon as I switch it on. At 85 degrees Celsius.
There you go. Traction control is turned off. Good job.
We'll be able to cook an egg in my tire. That's how I thought.
Yes. Sad.
It's raining pretty hard out. You should turn on your low beam headlights, roll your window down, reduce your speed, or drive in every puddle because it's fun. Tell you that is not the answer.
Dude, that should be the answer.
That is not the answer.
Actually,
There you go. You want to turn on your low beam so people can see you and reduce your speed because it's wet out.
It's red as well.
might have actually this.
What does this light mean? Your low beam lights are on, your high beam lights are on, jellyfish ahead, or your hazard lights are on.
The bikini bottom in this light show.
High beams are on. Good job.
Yep.
How much farther will it take you to stop on ice than a dry road? 2 times, 7 times, 12 times, 20 times.
right in front of my ass.
Hope you get the right answer though. 12 times longer to stop on ice than dry road.
Yeah.
What is a winter car care kit? Things to wash your car in the winter, car cover to cover your car during the winter, items to bring in case you get stuck, winter wheels so you don't damage your summer wheels.
What's happening out there?
There's a new place that opened, yeah. I think they're going to be there every Tuesday.
Daycare or what?
This is your last Tuesday, though.
I'm,
Will take longer to stop on wet leaves than just the wet ground. Yes, it'll be similar to being on ice. No, the leaves will act as traction to slow you down faster, or no, it will be the same. Good job.
Well, it gives you 40x track.
Got it.
won't we have like a week where we like drive together or something?
Yeah, actually, I was going to bring that up today.
Oh, okay.
If you start skidding, do you want to speed up or brake? Speed up, get your tires moving. Brake, keep pressing the brake and the skid. Neither, don't speed up or brake, just pick your foot up.
Start getting. Good. Floor. So you can get longer.
I think that's how that works. So neither, you don't want to hit the brake or the gas, just pick your foot up. Your initial reaction is going to be push the brake harder, but don't want to do that. Oh yeah, last one. What year did it change that all cars had to have ABS system? 1975, 1995, 2000, and 2010.
9? I think how many years?
$1995.
Oops, sorry.
Oh.
Champion foil.
There you go, good deal, guys. Get this up over here. But today we're going to talk about handling emergencies. This is your guys' last week of class. Congratulations, you made it this far. This will be it.
Yeah.
There probably won't be a graduation party.
Well, I mean, this isn't. Or this is.
No, this week is the last week.
Oh.
So almost there.
When do we get the study guide?
Thursday.
Yes.
The study guide is for the written test for your license.
Oh.
The study guide for the class final is the notes you've been taking.
Oh. I thought we were gonna get a study guide as well as you would.
Nope. All right. So it also got brought up too. Remember, you guys were doing your drives. You do have to have an observation drive done. So if you want to do it with somebody in class that you know, schedule it with them. If not, just let me know when you have your drive scheduled and we can get one before you or one after. But you do have to do an observation drive. It's not my rule. That's a DOL rule.
We have to do like one.
Just one. Just one. You just got to watch. You'll sit in the back seat and just watch another student as we teach them. They make you guys do that because they think that if you watch someone else learning, that can help you with some stuff that you might not be wanting to ask. But start thinking about when you want to do that, because there's only been a few of you that have done your observation drive. Okay, so handling emergencies. So you might run into things like your brakes stop working or your tire blows out. Maybe the engine just stops while you're driving. I've had that happen. The steering stops working, just different things that could happen, just emergencies while you're out there. Let's do different types of emergencies. So the vehicle breakdowns. So this is like if the engine stops working or something like that. You have driver error, which means you made a mistake as a driver and created some sort of emergency because of the mistake that was made. Could be hazards in the roadway if there's like big rocks, or if you're driving on the freeway and someone's bed comes out of the back of their truck, now it's in the middle of the freeway. It's a hazard on the roadway. So anything that's on the road. Accidents and collisions are obviously emergencies. Some are worse than others, of course. And then insurance. So insurance is very important. It's going to be something that you don't feel like you need it until you do. It's going to be something you pay for monthly, and you don't use it every month. So it kind of feels like you're throwing money away. But if it comes up with an emergency and you're using insurance, then it's very nice to have, and it is required to be a driver in Washington State. You got to have insurance. So tire failure, this is probably one of the more common failures that happen. If you have a tire blowout, the vehicle is going to pull in the direction of the blowout. So if it's on your right side, the vehicle is going to pull to the right. If it's on your left, it's going to pull to the left. It's especially dangerous on the front left tire. Why do you think that is? Driver's side front tire. Why is that more dangerous than the others?
It goes. You're on that side.
Okay. Yeah, you're on that side. Anybody online? Anybody else got any guesses? Why would it be more dangerous that your front left tire is, if it blows out, it's more dangerous than your back or the right side? You got
When it blows out, doesn't the vehicle veer to the left?
so it's going to pull in the direction that the blowout is. So just like here. So if your back tire blows out on the left, it'll pull to the left. If your front tire does, pulls to the left also. The front tire is more dangerous because there's nothing between you and oncoming traffic. So if your front tire goes, it's going to pull harder than it will for your back tire, and it's going to try to steer the car to the left lane where oncoming traffic is. So if it happens, focus on steering against the blowout. So the car is going to pull to the left. You want to try to turn it to the right. If you have a blowout on the right, it's going to pull to the right. You want to kind of pull it to the left and keep control of it and slow down. So wherever you want to go is where you want to turn the wheel. So it's going to pull you one way and you're not going to want to go there. You can turn the wheel the other. A rear tire blowout can cause a vehicle to fishtail. If that happens, you handle it just like a skid. You're going to turn in the direction that you want the vehicle to go. So it doesn't happen every time, but it can. Has anybody here experienced a tire blowout or been in the car when one did? No? Anybody online? I have once. It really was not as bad as I was in my head. I had it thinking. Lily, you have? Was it scary? The button wasn't, thankfully, but in my head I had it built up where it'd be a lot worse. Yeah, it was. Yeah, so it's definitely something you want to make sure you have good tire tread, your tires properly inflated. You don't want to have a tire blowout, right? You want to stabilize the vehicle if this happens, which it just means if it's pulling to the left, you want to turn to the right and just try to keep it straight as you can. Pull off the road and turn on your hazards. So why do we turn our hazards on?
So people see you.
Yep, so it's a flashing light. People know that something's going on. If your hazards are on, all four of your blinkers are flashing at the same time, so it tells people there's some sort of emergency. And hopefully, like I said, they see you in time because a flashing light will draw their attention. That all make sense? Okay, so here's a video. It's a short video of what an example of a tire blowout could look like.
Buy dash cams and send us footage at roadcams.net.
So that's real important if you're the car behind, you're not distracted. You can see the back tire blew out there, so now starting the fishtail. And as your car's going there, you want to turn it to the right. The back end goes left, you want to turn it left. Try to keep it as straight as you can. But that's just one example. Some are not nearly as bad as that. And then you got brake failure as an emergency. This is probably the most dangerous emergency that you might experience. You put your foot down to hit the brake and your car does not slow down or do anything. So if that happens, you want to pump the brake pedal, try to regain pressure. It could have had in the brake line, it could have a hole in it. And if you pump it a few times, you might be able to get enough pressure to start slowing down. You want to downshift to a lower gear. So it uses the engine to slow you down. If you're in a manual or a stick shift, you just downshift from, say you're in fourth gear, you might go down to second gear. And then when you let the clutch out, it'll start slowing it down. In an automatic, they have, you guys have seen on our cars where it has P for park, R for reverse, and neutral. And then there's like a D4, D3, a 2, and a 1. Those are all individual gears. So you would just go down from D4 to like 2. What's up?
Hey, so my mom's car, she doesn't have like lower gears. It's just like a D. That's it, really.
I bet you it does. Because even our Mazda has a D, but if you push it over, it goes into manual where you can push it up and down to change the gears yourself.
Oh, really?
So I bet it does. It's just in a different
Okay.
location, different way.
Sorry.
They're fine. Apply the parking brake, and if it begins to skid, you want to release it. So like on our cars, you have the hand that you pull up or the bar that you pull up for the parking brake. Now, when you turn it off, you have to push that button in, right? So you have to push the button in and then lower it down. If you hold that button in while you pick up the brake, it's not going to lock it in place. So you can actually push it back down if you need to. Some cars have them on the floor on the far left side that you can start slowly pushing. But just know where the parking brake is, and that is a good last minute. I need to stop. I don't have brakes. Use your parking brake. It is a different set of brake pads that gets used for your parking brake than your normal one, so it'll probably work. Find a safe spot to steer towards. Use the curb to slow you down if necessary. So if you are going too fast and there's a curb there, you can start grinding against the curb with your tire, and that's going to slow you down. Do it as a last resort because you can go over the curb as well, but also, as a last resort, aim to sideswipe another vehicle to slow you down. Not going into like a head-on, not going into someone on the side, but the same side that you're on to help slow you down. Is it safe enough? Could you swerve or lose a little momentum to the turn? To a certain point going, you don't want to swerve a lot because it could get you out of control. The back end of the car could start sliding and get into a fishtail. But you could do that a little bit. Just be careful if you're going to go into that, just because it can get easy to go too far. But basically, try, if it doesn't work, pump the brakes. If that's not working, try your parking brake, and then try to find a safe spot to go towards. Use the curb if you need to, and also as a very last resort, because it's going to cause damage to you and them, and you're going to be glad you have insurance, is sideswiping another vehicle to slow you down. Here's a video on how the brake system in cars work. It's good to know, just so you can understand how they work.
Welcome to Autotech Labs. Today we will see how an automotive disc brake system works. Let's see the principle behind the disc brake system. The brake system works based on the Pascal's law. The law states that pressure exerted anywhere in a contained incompressible fluid is distributed equally in all directions throughout the fluid. Let's make it simple. Consider two cylinders with pistons, connected each other, and filled with incompressible fluid. The mathematical relation is as follows. F1, applied force on left piston. F2, received force at right piston. A1 and A2 are surface areas of both pistons. P1 and P2 are pressure experienced by both pistons. Pressure can be stated as force experienced per area. So P1 equals F1 by A1, and P2 equals F2 by A2. According to Pascal's law, pressure on both pistons are equal, which gives us P1 equals P2. So, when force is applied to the left piston, the fluid will transmit the force to the right piston surface. But it will be a factor of the ratio of two piston surfaces. This concludes that, with a small force F1 at left piston, will give a higher force F2 at right piston, provided if A2 is greater than A1. With this, the left piston can act at the pedal side, and the right piston can act at the wheel side, transferring energy from pedal to the brakes. Now we know the theory, let's see how this works in real. Let's see the exploded view of a car wheel, and the parts involved. The wheel hub assembly, the disc brake rotor, the brake caliper assembly, the wheel, and the lug nuts. The wheel hub assembly holds the wheel and the disc rotor, and the bearing inside it allows their smooth rotation. The disc rotor is the part to which the brake pads squeeze against. This will create friction that retards the rotation of the wheel. The disc rotor produces a lot of heat due to this friction, and the drilled holes provides ventilation to remove this heat. The brake caliper assembly uses the hydraulic force from the brake pedal to squeeze the brake pads to the rotor surfaces, thus creating friction, and decelerates the wheel. The caliper assembly consists of the caliper bracket, slider pins, dust boots, inner brake pad, outer brake pad, caliper frame, and inside it, the piston. The caliper frame is having a banjo fitting, through which the fluid will reach till the piston. The pressurized fluid from the pedal side is capable of pushing the piston with great force. Also, the caliper frame is free to slide along the slider pins within the fixed extend. Now we know the parts, let's see how it works. When you apply the brake, the caliper will receive the high-pressure hydraulic fluid from the brake master cylinder. The fluid will push the piston, which makes the inner brake pad to squeeze against the disc rotor surface. As a result, the fluid's backward force will push the caliper frame along the slide pin, which makes the outer brake pad to squeeze against the other side of the disc rotor. Let's see one more time from the top view. The fluid pushes the piston, and the piston pushes the inner brake pad. Once the inner brake pad is pushed against the rotor, the fluid will push the caliper frame. The outer brake pad will now be pulled towards the other side of the disc rotor. This is how the disc brake system works on wheel side. In the next part, we will see what's a master cylinder, and how it transfer fluid.
That's boring video. That's basically how it works though. Got your brake pads that push against the rotor, and the harder it pushes, the faster it's gonna stop. So this is some steps to do, or tips if you have brake failure. I will warn you, this guy is very excited. But if you have brake failure, he's got some good tips for you.
Hey everybody, I'm here today to tell you how to stop your car when brakes fail. If you are in the unfortunate situation where your brakes have failed and your brakes are not working, I'm going to show you exactly what you need to do to bring your car to a complete stop safely and effectively. Let's get right to it. I'm going to turn the camera around so I can show you exactly what to do. All right, I'm going to break it down into a step-by-step tutorial. Step number 1 is stay calm. I know that your immediate reaction will likely be to panic and freak out when you push your brakes and you realize that they're not working. But that's one of the worst things that you can do. Staying calm will allow you to do the other steps effectively. Staying calm will allow you to remember what I'm telling you in this video and remember what to do and actually do those things. So step number 1 is stay calm. Step number 2, put your hazards on. Just like that. When you put your hazards on, it will let the other drivers know in front of you and behind you and potentially around you that something is wrong with your car, that you are experiencing some sort of vehicle difficulty. And when you put your hazards on, when people see your hazards on, they'll give you some extra space because they know that something is wrong. And that extra space can be very, very useful in bringing your car to a stop safely and effectively when your brakes have failed. So put your hazards on is step number 2. Step number 3 is downshift. Now, if you drive a manual car, it's easy to downshift. Push the clutch in, shift to a lower gear, release the clutch. That will slow your car down. Now, if you're in an automatic car, there are a few different options. In most automatic cars, they'll have either a shifting option over here on the shifter, so I would switch into the option like that, which would allow me to downshift, Okay, there's also sometimes in modern automatic cars paddle shifters which allow you to downshift. In some older cars there are different options. If you don't have this right here, there are options like the number 2 and the number 1 and even the letter L that will allow you to downshift the car. The one thing that I will tell you is make sure that you're downshifting into appropriate gears. You don't want to downshift into too low of a gear and harm your engine. So when you downshift, make sure you know that to downshift into a gear that is appropriate for your engine speed and your vehicle speed. You don't want to damage your engine trying to bring your car to a stop. So step number 3, once again, is downshift. Step number 4 is pump your brakes. What you want to do is pump your brakes. Sometimes that might allow your brakes to start potentially working again, or even start barely working again. It might slow you down. It's worth a try. Pump your brakes and see if it helps. That is step number 4. And last but not least, step number 5. As you've downshifted and you're slowing the car down, and after you've tried pumping your brakes, your last resort to bring the car to a stop is to use your emergency brake. Now there is a specific way to do this, so please pay attention and listen closely. I have an emergency brake right over here. Now, what you don't want to do is crank your emergency brake like that. That's one of the worst things that you can do, because what will happen is your car will likely skid to a stop. You'll lose control completely, and that's not good. What you want to do instead, my emergency brake is down right now. What you want to do instead is press and hold that button in, and you want to slowly raise the lever up. Just like that, slowly. And what that will do is that will slowly apply the emergency brake. It will act similar to the way that your car brakes. You want to slowly and gradually bring it up. It's going to start slowing the car down. When the car's almost at a complete stop, you can fully pull it up, and that will just bring the car to a nice, smooth, and slow stop, okay? Once again, very slowly. Press and hold, slowly bring it up. Just like that. And when the car is at a complete stop, you can then release it in the engaged position, which will make sure that your car remains stopped, because you don't want to bring your car to a stop and then, your emergency brake is down and then it keeps going. That's not what you want. So you want to slowly bring it up, just like that. And then when it comes to a complete stop, hold it up just like that. All right. Now, one other quick note. I want to tell you, do not turn your car off when your brakes have failed. Because if you turn your car off, you're going to lose your power steering, which is going to make it much harder to maneuver the car. And if your brakes have failed, you want to have as much steering control as possible. You don't want to have failed brakes and then you don't have any power steering. One of the worst things that you can do. Leave your car running. Let your engine run. It will power the power steering. It will provide power to your power steering components, which will allow you to maintain control throughout the entire process. Steering control throughout the entire process. Once again, if you're in the unfortunate situation in which your brakes have failed, follow the steps in this video and you will be able to safely and effectively and smoothly bring your car to a stop. When you've brought your car to a stop, don't keep driving it if your brakes have failed. Get it towed to a mechanic shop or to someone who can actually look at the car and fix your brakes, fix the problem. Don't drive it again once you've brought the car to a stop, no matter how close you are to your house. All right, and that's basically it. I really hope that you've enjoyed.
All right. So that's probably one of the best tips he gave was don't keep driving it once it stops, once you get it to stop. The only thing I don't agree with what he said was his step 4 was pumping the brakes. I would say that's the first thing you want to try. If you put your foot on the brake pedal and it just goes down and it doesn't stop you, just try pumping it a couple times and then go into turning on your hazard lights and using your e-brake, and just those things. But I would do that first. That's me personally. Does that make sense? Everything you said? What you want to try to do? Yeah. So now your parking brake. Your parking brake is something you want to put on every time you park. You don't want to engage it while the vehicle is moving. The only times in an emergency, just like that, when your brakes are failing. Otherwise, you're just going to wear your brake pads out for the parking brake, and it's not going to work as well. But you do want to put it on every time. There is a little metal gear that will hold the car from moving, especially on a hill. It drives me crazy because my wife never uses it ever, and it just drives me nuts. But this next video will kind of tell you it's like 45 seconds, but it'll explain how the parking brake works real quick.
Hey, it's Mike here at Danny's Fitzway again. For some of you advanced car enthusiasts, if you're ever wondering how your parking brake holds on a rear disc brake car, I was going to show you one example of how this works. We'll go ahead and we'll take your caliper off, and we're just going to hang it out of the way.
So that caliper's for like your
disc
normal
brake, but inside your disc brake, we actually have a drum surface. And inside the drum is a set of parking brake shoes that are separate from the main braking system. And when you pull on the handle or push on the parking brake, the shoes expand and they squeeze against the inside of the drum. And that's what holds your car in place when you're parked on a hill.
So that is, since it's separate from your actual brakes, like your brake pedal, it's like a whole nother brake system, and that's why it will still probably work if your brakes do fail. All right, so engine failure. Engine failure will happen with little to no warning. I've had this happen a couple times with me where they're driving along and the car just dies. Steering is still possible. So if your engine dies, you can still steer. You might lose your power steering, which all that's going to do is it's going to make it harder to turn. The power steering didn't come on cars until it was the mid 80s, I believe. But you'll still be able to turn. You want to shift to neutral when your engine first starts sputtering or if it shuts off. Putting it in neutral just releases everything off that engine, all the pressure and everything. Begin moving towards the shoulder. Turn on your hazards, but do not brake. Why do you think you don't want to brake if your engine dies? Yep.
You see the question again?
So if you're driving on the freeway and then your car suddenly dies, like out of nowhere, it just shuts off, why do you think you don't want to push the brake?
Because it might endanger other people.
There you go, Colin. It definitely could. But yeah, Cohen got so since you can't speed up, you might get stuck. So once your car dies, you have no way of keeping it moving, right? So once you stop, you're stopped. And so you want to begin moving towards the shoulder while you still have momentum and turn your hazard lights on so people know something's wrong. They'll stay away. And then you don't brake until you get over far enough to where you want to stop. So begin braking when you safely reach the shoulder. Raise the hood once cool to signal for help. So this is an older generation thing. A lot of people nowadays don't do it, but just if you see a car on the side of the road and the hood's up like this, it just means there's some sort of problem, and that's their signal saying they need help. So engine dies, keep your momentum up. You can start slowing down, just make sure you have enough momentum to get to the side of the road. Put your hazards on, and then start braking and stopping when you get to where you want to be able to stop. Just realize you won't be able to keep going. You can't speed up because it's died. Another example of emergency is like car overheating. If car overheats, you have what is called your radiator here. It's got coolant in it, but this is what cools off your motor. It's going to be extremely hot, especially if it's overheating. It can burn and melt your skin just instantly. If it's overheating, you're probably looking at 250 degrees or more in the liquid temperature. So it's going to be real hot. You have a radiator cap up here that when the car is running, you don't want to open it because it's under a lot of pressure. It'll just shoot straight up. And then also, like if you're overheating and you do it, you want the car to be cold before you do it. Otherwise, it still has pressure where it's going to shoot up and spray a bunch of coolant on you, or just up in the air, I guess. And it can definitely burn you. So this is what you don't want to do. So all the smoke's there because it's overheating. And he does have a towel to do it because he knows it's going to be hot. But that's how much pressure it's under. So and all of that's going to be, like I said, that's over 250 degrees for that. So instantly you got burned. So don't ever take your radiator cap off unless the car is cool. It's going to be extremely hot. Even when your car's not running and you first shut it off, it's going to be under pressure for a while. So it can definitely do that. So breakdowns can happen to anyone. This will show you what possible problems could be based on certain things on here. But
It's time for the Scotty Kilmer Channel. Today I'm going to show you what to do if your car dies on the road. Now, if you're driving down the road and all of a sudden your car stops running, here's some things you can do to get back rolling again. Now, the first thing to check is your gas tank. As nutty as it sounds, if you're out of gas, the car's going to die, and here's the reason you want to check that first. In almost all modern cars, the fuel pump is inside the gas tank. Gasoline actually lubricates the fuel pump passing through it so the bearings don't burn out in the fuel pump. So if you ran out of gas and you keep cranking the engine to try to start it, and you're out of gas, the fuel pump will suck air, it'll burn the bearings out. Some of these fuel pump assemblies can cost you over $1,000 to replace them. So if you are out of gas, don't keep trying to start the car. Get some more gas and fill it up and go on your way. But if you do have plenty of gas, here's the next thing to check. You could have blown a fuel pump fuse, so check that next. And it's always a good idea to have a few spare fuses in your glove box. You don't need a giant box like I have, but you can get them that have 4 or 5 fuses in them. Then go to the fuse box and check the fuel pump fuse and any other fuse like the EFI for the fuel injection. Tells you on the back what fuse goes where. And here's how you can tell if a fuse is good. If it's continuous like this, the fuse hasn't blown yet, but a blown fuse looks like this. As you can see now, the loop is burned off and it doesn't connect anymore, so the fuse is blown. So of course you have to have spare fuses to begin with, so make sure you got some in the glove box or the trunk. But here's another trick. Say you got a 10 amp fuse that's blown. Well, you could try a 15 or a 20 amp fuse just to see if it can make you home again. It really isn't going to hurt anything. And you might be able to make it home if there's a minor short that'll blow a 10 amp fuse, but not a 15 or 20. Now let's say you don't find any blown fuses. Well, you got the hood open. Check the fan belts to see if any of them came off. For example, if your alternator belt had come off, the alternator will stop charging the battery, you'll run out of electricity, and the car will stop running. And in that case, be prepared again. Be like me. Have a spare fan belt for the alternator in your trunk, so if it ever goes bad, you got one to put on. And if you really want to be prepared, you can have one of these little jump starter packs in your trunk. It can jump it after you put the fan belt on. Or if you don't have a fan belt or you can't mess with that kind of stuff, these little packs have a reasonable amount of power in them. They'll sometimes start a car and you can drive a few miles, you turn the headlights and everything off, and you might be able to make it to a gas station or someplace running on this little battery alone. Now let's say your car stopped running because the temperature gauge got in the H. Now of course you'd have to wait till the engine cooled down before you could do anything, but once it cools down, if you're prepared like me and have a spare jug of coolant in the trunk, once it's cooled down, add the coolant to the radiator. Then you can start it up, turn the heater on full blast, and then drive while you watch the temperature gauge to make sure it doesn't go back up to the H. And here's how that works. The heater core is a small radiator, so if you run the heater, that helps dissipate any extra heat, and as long as your temperature gauge doesn't get into the H, you can drive it back to a safe place, then find out what's wrong and fix it. And the last thing to check if your car dies on the road is check your oil. You wouldn't believe how many cars I've had towed over to me over the last 50 years that had run out of oil because no one ever checked the oil. So if you've been bad and don't check your oil enough, have 2 or 3 quarts in the trunk. So if you do get stuck somewhere and you're out, you can pour some in. A lot of times the engine will be damaged if you really ran it completely out of oil, but there's always a little bit left in the sump, and sometimes just putting in 2 or 3 quarts, it'll start up and sound fine and still run. So now you know what to do if your car dies on the road. With a little preparation up front, you can often save yourself. And remember, if you have any car questions, visit the Scotty Kilmer channel.
All right, so there's some good tips, some good info, but you don't have to be as extreme as him and carry coolant and everything. Maybe some basic things or some oil be enough, but a lot of people don't carry fuses and coolant and stuff in the car with them. Those are some good tips. Almost alone. So if a vehicle stalls on railroad tracks, so like in this picture, this guy ran away from the cops. You can see the cop car over here. Somehow ended up getting stuck this way. But usually if this happens, it's mostly from drunk drivers or just bad choices. really. But if a train's coming, obviously get as far away from the train as you can. What you want to do though is say the train is coming this way towards the car from this far end over here. You want to go away from the car towards the train, because when the train hits it, everything's going to go in the same direction as the train. So if you absolutely have to get away and run towards the train so that all the debris and everything goes away from it. Or goes away from you. If no train is approaching, try to restart the vehicle. If you have passengers, have them watch for trains. You can put it in neutral, and when it's in neutral, you can try to push the vehicle either direction. But biggest tip, if you're ever in this situation, which 95% of people won't be, but you see a train coming, run towards the train, not away, because then all the stuff will go away from you. Does that make sense?
Run towards it?
Towards the train. So if you look at, like up here, you see the red dot? The train's coming this way to come hit it. And when it hits it, everything's going to keep going the same direction as the train. So the car, all the pieces, glass, it's all going to go in the same direction it got hit. So if you run towards the train, it's going to keep everything behind you that's getting pushed out, behind you. So there'll be less debris, less stuff to get hurt on if you run towards the train. Let me rephrase that. Run towards the direction of the train. Don't run towards the train. Just that's in direction. Steering failure. So power steering failure happened like if your engine dies, if you're low on the power steering fluid, or if the drive belt slips off or breaks. What's going to happen is you'll still have steering. It's just going to be harder to turn the wheel. My first car I had, it didn't have power steering, and I learned real quick that you want to be going 3 miles an hour. You want to move forward before you start turning, because then when the car's moving, it's easier to turn. When you're stopped, it's going to be really hard to turn. But if you see this light here, this is telling you that the power steering failed. You'll notice it's harder to turn the wheel, but you still will be able to turn it. I don't have the person in. Okay. Total steering failure though. So that means, have you ever noticed when the car's, like if your key's not turned in the car, the wheel actually locks and you can't turn it left or right and it's just stuck where it's at? That's what it's going to be like. You won't be able to turn it all. So if that happens where you cannot turn the wheel, you want to honk your horn, use your flashers, let people know something like you can't move, like you can't go left or right. There's an emergency. Stop as quickly and safely as possible. You don't use your brakes unless a collision is imminent. So you want to slow down. You don't want to just slam on it. If you cannot turn and you feel like you're going to hit something or something's going to hit you, then obviously slam on your brakes. But you will not be able to turn the wheel left or right. Just do everything you can to draw attention. Flashers, lights draw attention. A flashing light draws attention. Horn, people aren't used to hearing a horn. So if you tap your horn and you hit it a whole bunch, they're going to look towards you. They're going to realize something's going on. But yeah, so that's pretty much it. Like I said, it's more than likely you'll still have steering. The only time you might not is if you're going along and somehow you take the keys out of the car while you're driving. You don't ever want to do that. That will lock your wheel up. So here's a video on how power steering works. Just a basic understanding of it. Some of these videos I have to show you guys.
In the beginning, there was only one kind of steering. You want to move the car a different direction? You grab the steering wheel and put your shoulder into it. Power steering was either unheard of or very elite.
Steering a heavy vehicle by manual effort only emphasized the need for a steering assist.
We huffed and heaved and sweated behind the wheel until the first mainstream car with power steering hit showrooms. The 1951 Chrysler Imperial was something that they called Hydra Guy. And then for 50 years, power steering didn't really change a lot. Hydraulic was hydraulic, like on this 67 Cougar. You basically have your steering rack that is very classic in just about every car of the era. But to help you move that, you've got this power ram right up here. This piece is nothing more than a hydraulic ram that pushes one way or the other to get your wheels to move which way you want. It is told how much and what direction by this control valve up here. And all this connects to your steering column. Where does it get all the pressure is what's interesting. If you look up in there, you see that pump. That's the power steering pump run by a belt off the front of the engine. That's one of the big problems with these systems. It's constantly putting drag on the engine, creating a bunch of pressure, even if you're not using it to steer. That's called a parasitic loss. That can sap MPG and power. But these days, power steering has changed dramatically. Welcome to the era of EPAS, electric power-assisted steering. Now, underneath this 2014 Jeep Cherokee, a decidedly modern vehicle, we find a very different steering system. Electric power steering is here. If you look up in this vicinity, you're going to see the electric motor which is sitting on the steering rack, those arms and linkages that move the wheels left and right. Another model is to take that motor and move it further up and put it on the actual steering column, kind of heading up toward the firewall. The effect is the same. The electric motor and its electronics sense your effort on the wheel and add their own in-kind in, of course, the same direction. The efficiency, the compactness, the cleanliness, and the accuracy of this system versus hydraulic is the big idea.
Note there are also hybrid systems that remain hydraulic but replace the belt-driven pump with an electric one. The bigger trend, however, is to go fully electric.
Okay, so as you've picked up on, there are 4 major benefits to electric power steering. Let's run them down. First off is efficiency. ZF, which makes a lot of electric power steering systems, says they can save 90% of the energy that is parasitically wasted by hydraulic systems. Put another way, Chevy says their 2013 Malibu gets 2.5% better MPG solely because it has electric power steering. They ballpark that at 120 gallons of gas, or about $500 saved across 10 years of ownership. Next up is addressability. Because it's an electric component, it can be harnessed to the vehicle's control systems to automate things like automatic parking assistance, lane departure correction, all kinds of things that are nudging into the area of autonomous driving. It can also be used in the background for cornering improvement and cornering control. Now we have accuracy. Because it's driven largely by software, changing its behavior and keeping it accurate with a feedback loop that a computer can monitor is quite easy. That's not the case with hydraulic systems. If you want to change their behavior, you largely have to go engineer new physical components for them. And then there's compactness, a big deal with automotive packaging designers. Instead of having a pump and belts and valves and a power ram, you just have an electric motor and some wires going to and from it. That allows a lot of space to be freed up and for things to be kept very compact and very cool in the engine bay. So it's a win-win-win-win. Then why do so many driving purists kind of push back on electric power steering? Well, part of it is because it's not what we've always had. It's not hydraulic, and let's face it, we've all gotten used to hydraulic steering, and automakers have dialed it in quite nicely. And early electric power steering systems did have some numbness to them and some poor what's called on-center feel. That's been largely corrected in my experience. I have a very hard time telling a good electric system from a refined hydraulic system until I look under the hood. The future? When electric power steering like we've seen today becomes steer-by-wire electric power steering. That means the steering wheel basically becomes a game controller and has no mechanical connection to the front end at all. That's down the road a few years, and that's a separate Car Tech 101.
That's just the basics of how it works. You won't be tested on the specifics of it, but it's just good to know. And we're gonna take a break for till 7:20. So we'll break till 7:20.
You grab the steering wheel and put your shoulder in.
All right, we'll take roll. Julian,
Here.
Giovanni. Caden,
Here.
Gabriel. Gabriel.
Yeah.
Ryan.
Here.
Lily. Owen.
Here.
Paige. Lexi. Corbin. Veda.
Here.
Samaya. Sarah. Wyatt. Serenity. Also you joined. Serenity, you here. Angelina.
Here.
Hayden.
Here.
Cohen. Leland. Leland, you make it back. Teo. Dakota. Let's see, Serenity or Leland? Gabriel is getting back in. Leland.
Yeah.
Gabriel, you made it back in? Okay, got you. So, this is Leland, you make it back? All right, loss of forward vision. So if your hood flies up, if this were to happen, I have not heard of this actually happening to anybody that I know. You have a little gap right here that's between the bottom of the windshield and the hood. You're gonna try to look through that as best as you can. It could be hard because of the dash. You might not be able to see very well, but that's the only spot you're gonna be able to see anything. So try to look through there as best you can. Pull over, put your hazards on, slow down, come to a stop on the shoulder. Mud, snow, sleet. A lot of times if it's like snowing out, you'll see there'll be snow on the hood. And then let me let Leland back in. As you're driving, the snow's gonna, because of the wind, gets pushed up and onto your windshield. So if that happens, you want to use your wipers. As soon as it happens, try to use your windshield wipers to clear your windshield. Spray if it's needed. A lot of times with like mud and sleet, it'll be dirty. So you'll use your wipers and it's going to leave really muddy or dark streaks where you can't really see. So you have to use your spray on your wipers. Headlights fail, turn on your right blinker to highlight the side of the road and pull over. So if you're driving and it gets really dark, you can't see, put your blinker on because that flashing light will still give you a little bit of visibility. And just use that light as best as you can to pull over to the side of the road and come to a stop. Vehicle fires. So if your engine catches fire, you want to steer off the roadway to a safe open spot and turn your engine off. Try to avoid grass if possible, just because it'll catch fire. It'll spread the fire. I got you, Leland. And then move at least 100 feet away from the vehicle. I would go farther than that. As you're going away, I'm sure you won't forget your cell phone. Remember to call the fire department, call 911. Because it's going to end up, if the engine catches fire, the whole car is going to end up catching on fire like this. So pull as soon as it does, pull over, turn off your engine. If you can't, don't do it, but try to avoid grassy areas so you're not catching anything else on fire. Go as far away as you can from it, more than 100 feet. Call the fire department, let them know where you're at and what's going on. A compartment fire, you want to use water if you have a fire extinguisher to put it out. It's going to be like something on the inside of the car. You know, it might be from smoking or, you know, something like that on the inside. So if you have fire extinguisher, use it. If you have water, as soon as it starts, even a bottle of water could help a lot. If it's uncontainable, get away from the vehicle and call the fire department. So the same thing is you want to, as best you can, get to the side of the road, get out of the way of everything, get out of the car, call the fire department, and get as far away as you can. That all make sense? Perfect. Driver errors. So this is something that's a mistake that you made while driving. In this picture here, like how this person's along the barrier on the freeway, more than likely, if I had to guess, I'd say it's probably from texting, something with their phone, so just stay off your phones. But a driver error is something that you made a mistake and caused. Hopefully you don't get into this situation. But four wheels off the road, obviously this is, but it's just if you're driving along the road, like this one's two wheels, but you go, all four wheels go off to the side. You don't want to turn real sharp, depending on what it is. It could be grass, could be a lot more traction than the road, could cause your vehicle to roll. You want to slow down and move slowly back to the shoulder, which is going to be going back towards the road, and then safely re-enter traffic using the SMOG method. What's SMOG stand for? Nicely done. So that's how you re-enter traffic. So you're now going into the next lane over. Very similar with two wheels off the road. You want to steer towards your target while holding the car halfway on the road. So this is, if only two wheels go off to the side here and two are still on here, you'll still be able to turn and slow down pretty good because you have two wheels on the pavement. You want to slow down as soon as it happens. And then as you're driving slowly, you want to turn, I guess it depends on which side of the road you're on. Turn left slightly until both tires return to the road. So if you're like this guy, you're going to turn to the right and get all your tires on the road. Then safely re-enter traffic using the SMOG technique. What does SMOG stand for? There you go. Good job. So emergency swerving. So you're the red car here and the yellow car's in front of you and you could not see this box that was in the middle of the road. So they hit their brakes very quickly. Which of these cars is in the best position to avoid a collision? Go ahead.
Number 3.
Yep, so the one way over here, right? Yep. So this is why you don't want to follow too close. Good job, Teo. If you're too close and they hit their brakes, you can't get out of the way fast enough without hitting them. That's if you see them hit their brakes and you hit your brakes right away also. This one's better following distance. You'd probably get over there, but it's still going to be a oh crap moment, last minute, kind of make your butt pucker to get over. But if you have good following distance here, then you have lots of room where you can get over without having to worry about hitting this guy, right? So this is part of why you want to keep a good following distance. What do you guys think following distance should be?
4 seconds.
4 seconds. There you go. That is on your test coming up. So good job. So keep 4 seconds of following distance. So collisions, sometimes they're out of your control when they happen. Like if you get rear-ended, like in this picture, you could be stopped at a stoplight and this person was on their phone not paying attention and they rear-ended you. Nothing you could have done about that, right? It's kind of nerve-wracking and scary when you get into collisions. But like here, like I said, this is just a rear-end collision. Someone was stopped. They didn't stop in this car, went right back into them. Over here is called getting T-boned. It's because it kind of makes the letter T with this car coming across. The best thing you can do in a situation where a lot of times this will happen on an intersection where you're turning left and someone's like trying to pass you or something. The best thing you can do when you notice it is kind of see where they're at. And if you were to hit the brakes and try to stop as quickly as you could, will they go in front of you? Or if you get on the gas and like really get on to get moving, will they go behind you? Or will they hit the back of the car? But it's a pretty serious collision. There are lots of deaths and stuff that happen from that. But the most severe one is going to be this bottom picture, which is a head-on collision. Just two cars going opposite directions and run into each other. So the reason this one is the worst as far as getting injured goes is even if you're only going 25 miles an hour, the other car is coming towards you at 25 miles an hour. When you guys hit, it's like going 50 into a wall. So because you guys are both moving at the same speed, it adds it up. So instead of being 25, it's like a 50-mile-an-hour collision. That's why those are the most dangerous. When you're faced with a head-on collision, slow until the other driver can return to their lane. So if you have to, slow way down. Flash your lights, honk your horn, do something to get their attention. A lot of times if they're coming over the center line into your lane and it's looking like it might be a head-on, it's because they're distracted. So a horn is a noise and lights is visual, right? So it's something that hopefully they see either a flashing light or they can hear your horn. That'll help you. Swerve to the right. So why do you want to swerve right and not left? What do you got? There you go. You swerve left, you go towards oncoming traffic. Good job, Tail. So if they're coming towards you and you think you're going to get in a head-on collision, slow way down and move to the right. A rear end collision. So maintain a safe following distance, including when you're stopped at an intersection. So we talked about this I talked about with a lot of you guys on your drives the last few times we've been on it. Keep a good distance between you and the car in front, because if you're rear-ended, you don't want to get pushed into them. And that keeps them out of it. If you are in front and there's a driver behind you that is super close, don't hit your brakes real hard, but you can tap it just so that the brake lights turn on and off a couple times. And that might be enough to get their attention to realize, they'll realize that they were a little too close. Creep forward if possible, or move to the right, or move to the front left or right zone. One thing you'll see cars do when, like, say this black car, he's right behind him, but he doesn't hit him. This black car stops all of a sudden real quick. This car will, instead of just stopping in a straight line, they'll move over to the shoulder to the right side of them while they're slowing down. The reason that people do that is instead of hitting them like they would here, if they're next to them, they're not going to hit them, right? So it slows them. You can kind of come to a stop next to them, but it also gives the car right behind them room to come to a stop, all this room here, instead of being right behind them. If collision is unavoidable, release your brake just before the collision and brake immediately after. Why do you think you don't want to keep your foot on the brake if they're going to hit you? Yeah.
Because if you have the brake on, then you won't be knocked forward as far, and so like there'll be more of an impact.
Yep, that's exactly it. So if you are with your foot on the brake, you're keeping your car stopped in one spot. So when they hit you, the car's just going to try to stay stopped the whole time. If your foot's off the brake, it's going to push you forward a bit. So instead of trying to stay stopped, the car's going to move forward to absorb some of that impact. And then as soon as they do hit you, then you can get back on the brake. If you let off just before, it'll reduce the impact. It won't be quite as violent as it could be. Side impact collision. So brake or accelerate quickly to avoid. So that's what I was talking about, where if they are going to hit you no matter what, if you slam on your brakes, will they hit just the front of the car instead of where somebody's sitting? Or if you get on the gas really quick, will they hit the trunk and the back area instead of where someone's sitting? It's a quick decision, and there's not a lot you can do about it, but either try to stop or go real fast, just depending on where they're at and how fast you guys are going. So controlling the force of impact. So the force of impact is going to be judged based off of speed, weight, and time between impact and stopping. So the speed and the weight's the biggest factors in this. It's what's going to determine how bad it is, honestly. The heavier the vehicle is, the more damage it's going to cost. The faster you're going, the more damage it's going to cost also. Safety belts, seatbelts, it's what keeps you in the car on impact, right? We saw some videos where people flew out of the car. It's because they weren't wearing their seatbelt. The car's going even 30 miles an hour. You're moving 30 miles an hour with it. If it suddenly stops because of an impact, you're still going 30 miles an hour. Seatbelt will keep you in the car. Airbags will deploy to help you as well. Generally, airbags will not just go off for no reason. You have to be in a pretty hard hit for them to actually go off. And then child safety restraints, just make sure if you have kids in the car that they are properly in car seats or whatever they need to be in, buckled in. Here's some information on airbags.
Airbags. The idea of using a giant balloon to cushion you if you crash has been around since the 1950s, yet it wasn't until 1974 that General Motors offered the first commercial car with a driver-side airbag. Today, all new American cars and 91% of all new European cars are fitted with airbags. Your driver airbag works in a very similar way to a rocket. They both use solid fuel. In your car, this is found in a compartment behind the steering wheel, like this. When it's ignited, it's contained and the gases released inflate the airbag. Whereas with a rocket, the solid fuel is at the bottom. So when you ignite it, the uncontained release of energy propels the rocket skyward. The gas blows up the airbag pretty quickly, so we're going to film this test rig to show you just how fast it inflates. That yellow weight up there simulates somebody's chest. Now, as it's dropped, it will pass this sensor, which will activate the airbag to inflate in time to cushion its fall. Well, Rick, that happened so quickly. What speed was that?
The airbag's inflated in roughly 35 milliseconds, which, to scale it for you, it takes you approximately 200 milliseconds to blink.
Wow.
Which is pretty
Now,
quick.
that's why I didn't see it.
Yeah.
You don't need to worry about suddenly being hit by an airbag because a sensor in your car continually measures acceleration and deceleration. It'll only deploy the airbag when it senses a dramatic deceleration resulting from a sudden impact. And the bags themselves are getting clever. They can now alter the amount they inflate according to the weight and position of the person, which means they're less likely to give you a hard punch in the face. Now check this jacket out. It can surround you in airbags. It's already being used by some of the police riders in Japan, Spain and Brazil. And the idea is that if you're on your motorbike and you get thrown off, this tag gets pulled, the jacket inflates and it can soften your fall. Now it needs a damn good pull. Darren, if you could. Now it improves your safety and it's pretty damn sexy too. In today's cars, airbags can be in the roof, in the side, in your seat. There are even airbags to put you in the right position before you hit another airbag. But wherever they are, an airbag will always react so quickly that if you blink, you'll miss it.
So that's just a little bit how they work. Teo, so what's it mean if airbags just go off? So they're not going to go off, meaning they're not going to inflate. They won't just randomly inflate while you're driving. It'll go off if you are going at a higher rate of speed and suddenly stop. So other protective devices. So vehicle manufacturers built in compression or crush zones into the front and rear of the vehicle. So that's this red part here on both sides. It's going to absorb the energy they're meant to crush, and it's going to make it so the impact isn't quite so harsh on you inside, and it's just going to absorb it. So these are different zones that they have. You got the side impact panel, penetration, resistance on the windshield, the head restraints. They're kind of all over. And this next video, we'll talk about crush zones and crumple zones.
Impulse equals force times time. Here's my favorite demonstration of impulse. I have 2 eggs, same mass. I'm going to try to throw each egg with the same velocity. That means they have the same momentum. If the impulses were equal, why do we have such dramatically different results? The wall applies a big stopping force over a short time. The sheet applies a smaller stopping force over a longer time period. My students say the sheet has more give to it. Both stop the egg, both decelerate the egg's momentum to 0, but it takes a smaller force to reduce the egg's momentum over a longer time. In fact, so much smaller that it doesn't even crack the egg shell. Now let's relate this to automobiles. Both of these cars have the same mass, and both are traveling at the same speed, 30 miles per hour. Like the eggs, they have equal momenta. As a result, it will take equal impulses to reduce their momenta to 0. One car will stop by panic braking, and the other by normal braking. If the impulses must be equal to decelerate each car's momentum to 0, the driver that stops in less time or distance must experience a larger force and the higher deceleration. And let's also assume the car's front end crushes 1 foot with uniform deceleration of the passenger compartment throughout the crash. In this crash, the driver would experience 30 Gs. However, if the vehicle's front end was less stiff, so it crushed 2 feet instead of 1, the deceleration would be cut in half to 15 Gs. This is because the crush distance, or the time the force is acting on the driver, is doubled. Extending the time of impact is the basis for many of the ideas about keeping people safe in crashes. It's the reason for airbags and crumple zones in the vehicles you drive. It's the reason for crash cushions and breakaway utility poles on our highway.
We use the stripped down body to illustrate the concepts of good and poor structural designs for modern crashworthiness.
Brian, why is it important for the vehicle structure to perform well in a crash?
Well, this is what's left of the body and structure of a car that was in a crash, and we use this to illustrate the point. Basically, we want the occupant compartment or the safety cage to remain intact. We don't want any damage or intrusion into this part of the vehicle during the crash.
Okay.
We want all of the damage of the crash confined to the front end.
So even though all this metal looks the same, it's actually different. The green metal is intended to crumple, to give in the collision.
If we can crumple the front end of the car without allowing any damage to the occupant compartment, then the people inside can be protected against serious injury. Basically, we want the front end to be buckling during the crash so that the occupant compartment is slowed down at a gentler rate.
Right. Kind of like jumping off of a step and keeping your knees straight and landing on the floor versus bending your knees when you land.
Exactly the same concept. So this is a vehicle that did well because there's very little intrusion anywhere in the occupant compartment. These elements here, even though they're strong enough to hold an engine and suspension, actually buckled and crushed just like they're designed to do. So the damage is confined to the front end. We look at a vehicle like this, and this is an example of a very poor safety cage. This vehicle was in a 40-mile-an-hour crash, and as you can see that the occupant compartment has collapsed, it's been driven backwards. As a result, the driver's space has been greatly reduced. So someone sitting in this vehicle is obviously at a high risk of injury. So this is an example of poor crashworthiness. But this vehicle was in the same crash, 40-mile-an-hour, offset crash, and you can see that now the safety cage has remained intact. There's very little intrusion anywhere. The damage is confined to the crumple zone of the vehicle. This is the way it should be. A person in a crash like this, wearing their seatbelt and protected by the airbag, can walk away from the crash with no injury.
Right. If I stand over here and I just look towards the rear of the car and I ignore the airbag, this doesn't even look like it's been in a crash.
That's right. This is good performance, good crashworthiness.
In our shipping box analogy, this is an example of a strong box.
That's right. The people in this box will be protected.
All right, so that's a little bit about it and how they actually go about crumple zones in the car. The goal is the front hood area should crumple and the main cabin area would not. That makes sense. So if you have a collision, you want to stop immediately, move the vehicle to the side of the road unless there's too much damage that it won't move, and then turn off the ignition. Stuff, depending on how bad the crash is, there could be leaks and stuff, so you want to turn the engine off so it doesn't start a fire. But try to get off the road just for traffic. If you cannot, the car does not move, then obviously you stay where you're at, call 911, let them know what's going on. If you damaged a parked vehicle or property, try to find the owner. So like if you're in a parking lot and you're backing out and you accidentally hit their car with your car. If you can't find the owner, leave a note, have your contact information on it. You don't want to be accused of a hit and run. If you get involved in a hit and run, it's a much more serious, I guess, fine that you'll get. I would even take a picture of the note you put just so you have proof that you couldn't find them. You left a note there. Then they can't try to call in and say nothing was left. They can't accuse you of a hit and run. But try to find the owner if you do. You'll end up giving information out for your insurance and everything, get it covered that way. But if you make a mistake, own up to it. If you have a collision, so aid the injured. Never move an injured person unless there's danger of a fire or another collision. Sometimes you can't tell, but if someone is hurt and you move them, it's going to make it worse. So unless it's absolutely necessary, don't move anybody. Send for the paramedics if anyone is seriously injured. If you can, provide basic first aid as needed. Just try to help out. Prevent further damage. So use emergency triangles, flares, or cones. Warning traffic. It's a great idea to get triangles like these. We have them in our cars for the school. But this way, it just warns people coming up. So like if you can kind of see through the triangle here, that's probably where they're at with the collision or whatever happened. The triangle's way back here. It just lets people coming up know that, hey, something's coming up. Just be on the lookout. Be aware. And then if you need to, have someone safely direct traffic if it's safe for them. Just so that they don't run into you, they don't run into another car. It doesn't make the accident worse for everybody. So you must call the police if anyone is injured or killed. Kind of a no-brainer there, I think, but don't freak out if someone's injured. You know, if someone gets hurt, just call the police, let them do their job. Washington does not require police if no one's injured. So if you get into a car crash and it's like this, but nobody is hurt, then you do not have to call the cops. It's recommended you do, though, to get a police report. A lot of insurance companies are going to want it. You want to provide accurate facts and never admit the blame. So you don't want to say it was my fault, it was their fault. Just get the facts of what happened. And you're going to exchange information. You're going to get the name of anyone involved, any passengers, any witnesses, anybody there. You're going to want to get their address, give them yours, the driver's license number, license plate number. You're going to end up giving your insurance information to them, and you'll get theirs from them. And then note where everyone was sitting. The biggest thing you can do if you have a collision, especially with your phone, is take pictures. Pictures are going to be, it's going to stop people from saying, from lying about what happened. So if you see something, then make sure you take a picture of it all. You can take too many pictures and not use them. It's better than wishing you took pictures and didn't, right? So just exchange information with the other person that's involved. You're going to file necessary reports. So you want to right away, as soon as you can, after getting a hold of the police or whatever you need to, and you exchange information, you want to notify your insurance agent, let your insurance know what's going on, what just happened. Then they'll reach out once you get their information. They'll reach out to them and their insurance and kind of deal with it in that way. But if a collision results in injury, death, or property damage of $1,000 or more to one person's property, and a report is not made by a law enforcement officer, you must complete a collision report form within 4 days. That's part of the Washington Driver Guide. So Washington State is saying that you have to file a report. The best thing you can do is call the police, let them do it. There's no reason that you wouldn't. You'll get a police report number. You'll be able to give it to your insurance. Cohen, why within 4 days? So they want you to do it within 4 days so everything is still fresh. If you do it a week later or after that, then there's some details that you might leave out or some things that didn't happen but you thought did, so you put it in there. So if you're doing it within the 4 days, it's still fresh in your mind. I would do it sooner than later just so you can give all the facts. It's just going to be the sooner you do it, the more you remember, the more details you can give. But this is also why I'd let the police do it. I'd call the cops, have them show up. They'll make their report. You'll still get the information. You'll get their information, the insurance and all that still, but it creates a report of what happened at the time that it happened. So you definitely want to do that. Then we go on to vehicle insurance. So insurance is something you have to have. The premium, you'll hear this a lot, but it's a specified amount of money for coverage over a specified period of time. So all that means is how much you're going to pay for your policy. So a lot of policies you can do, you can pay yearly, you can pay every 6 months, you can pay monthly. A lot of people do it monthly. It's just easier to expense it that way. It's not such a big hit at once. But yeah, so premium is just how much you're going to pay for your policy. The policy is a contract between you and the insurance company. It's just going to say exactly what they are covering, what they're not covering. Then you have a deductible. It's the amount you agree to pay towards the repair or replacement of your vehicle. So this is how much you're going to pay before your insurance pays. So like if a lot of people have a $500 deductible and say they need their windshield replaced. Windshield's going to cost, we'll just say $1,000 to make it easy. You have to pay $500 and your insurance will pay the other $500. Let's say it was $1,500 for a windshield. You'll still pay your $500 deductible and then the insurance will pay the other $1,000. The minimum insurance you can get is what's down here, the $25,000, $50,000, and $10,000. So $25,000 is injury or death of one person. That's what the insurance will cover. This is the minimum. The $50,000 is going to be the injury or death of two people. And then $10,000 is for property damage. So this is if you damage someone's property, whether You know, it could even be like a mailbox. Someone's mailbox is still their property. You'll have to end up paying your deductible, and then insurance will cover it. And this is the minimum that you can get. Not how much you're actually paying. Like I said, you're going to pay your deductible. Insurance will pay the rest. So here's a little more information on insurance, how it works. Like I said, it is something you have to have in Washington State when you're driving.
Hey, let's talk car insurance. Part 1. What is car insurance? Well, I'll tell you. Car insurance protects you from a huge financial loss. Basically, you pay a premium monthly, usually, to your insurance company, and in exchange, if you get into a wreck, the insurance company will help you cover your losses. Car insurance includes 3 different types of coverage. Number 1, property, which will pay if your car is stolen or damaged. 2, liability, which pays for legal obligations to others for bodily injury or property damage. And number 3, medical, which pays for hospital bills, rehabilitation, and sometimes lost wages or funeral expenses. Part 2, money matters. So how much coverage should you get? Well, that depends on different things, such as your car's value, whether you own the car outright, and how much in damages you could afford to cover out of pocket on your own. Naturally, your monthly premium will vary depending on your amount of coverage. Like, for instance, it costs more to insure the Ectomobile than it does to, say, cover Mr. Bean's little mustard yellow car. That's the way of the world, kid. And don't you forget it. Very important note, just because you pay premiums, that doesn't mean you'll pay nothing when you get into a wreck. Most likely, you'll have something called a deductible. The deductible is the amount of money that you have to pay before your insurance starts kicking in. So, let's say you total your $5,000 car in a wreck, and your deductible is $1,000. That means that you are going to pay the first $1,000 to get your car replaced, and your insurance will pay the remaining $4,000. In the good old US of A, nearly all states require that you have car insurance if you're going to own or drive a car, so it's super important to get it. Also, the remaining states still require that you prove that you could afford to cover all damages if you get into a wreck. So basically, for the privilege of not paying a monthly premium on insurance, you're gambling potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not more, so we would say, crowd, get insured. Applause, 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 applause. Part 3, how to get insured. This is actually really simple. You can get quotes online or over the phone very quickly from dozens of competitors. The insurance company will need a bit of information about you and your car. They'll also likely run a credit report and look up your accident history. Once you get a quote you like, you'll start paying premiums, and they will send you your insurance card, which you should keep with your car at all times. How come, Mike? I'll tell you how come. Because Part 4, that colossal wreck. Boundless and bare. P.S. The first person to tell me what that quote is from in the comments is officially an awesome adult. Step 1. Post-accident, if you can, get your car and yourself off of the road and into someplace safe. If you cannot move your car, leave it there, but make sure you get out of the dangerous situation. Your insurance company will pay to get a tow truck to take your car away. Either way, though, put on your hazards. If you have any of those reflectorized triangles, be sure to put those out. If you have one of those road flares, careful, because they'll burn you. They're not just like fun with, they're not a glow stick, for crying out loud. Who learned his lesson the hard way? This guy. A lot of raves in the 90s. None of this was true. Next angle. Step 1.5. This might be slightly uncomfortable, but do not offer any apologies or explanations for what caused the wreck. They could be used against you in future legal proceedings. Step 2. Should you call the police? We recommend that you do. Admittedly, it is not illegal to not call the police, but to quote US News and World Reports, even if no one is hurt, if there's real damage and insurance companies will soon do battle, it's a good idea to call 911. That's the recommendation from the federal government's website, 911.gov, which recommends calling after a car crash, especially if someone is injured. If you call 911 or your local precincts and bring in a neutral third party to document the accident, you'll be doing yourself a favor. It's true that it might take a little while for the police to get there if you live in a big city or they're just like super busy that day, but still, we recommend erring on the side of caution and calling them. And either way, you're going to have to file an accident report to the police. More info in the doobly-doo. Step 3. Gather the other driver's information and volunteer your own. You should write down these things, and if you've called the police, you should get their phone number, their badge number, their name, the number of the police report, and request a copy of the police report. Having all of this info will save you a lot of headaches in Step 4. File a claim. After the scene is cleared, call your insurance company immediately to start the claims process. Your insurance card should have a 24-hour phone number on the back of it, and your insurance agent should call you within 1 business day to help you with the claim. Your insurance agent should also be able to help you basically every step of the way throughout the process. After an accident that you are deemed responsible for, it's possible that your premiums are going to go up. That's because the insurance company sees you as a riskier investment. However, this is not for certain because a lot of different companies have different policies on rate increases, so just know that it might vary. For a lot of people, driving is a big part of adulthood and it is a huge responsibility. Basically, you're piloting a 2-ton missile. So, drive sober, put down your phone, and maintain legal speed limits. That way you'll be avoiding the 3 most common causes of accidents. I speak for everyone here at How to Adult when I say you guys are awesome, so please be safe. Please be safe.
All right, so that's a little bit about insurance. These are the different types of insurance that you have or you can get. Liability is injury and property damage that you cause to others. Personal injury protection, it's limited medical, income, and funeral expenses. Uninsured or underinsured injury, there's injuries an uninsured person causes. So this is if something happens and the other person that's involved does not have insurance or their insurance does not cover it enough to cover it all. So uninsured or underinsured property damages an uninsured person causes. Collision, damage to your car caused by a collision. Comprehensive is damage to your car caused by anything but collision. Then you have what's called gap insurance. This will pay the difference between the current market value and the amount you still owe. So if you got a loan on your car is worth less than you owe, the insurance will cover the gap from what you owe and what it's worth. If you own your car and you're not making payments on it, you are at a bare minimum required to have liability insurance, but you do not have to have some of the others. It's just one of the things that, if you have a loan from the bank, they're going to make you have comprehensive collision liability. It helps save them from a loss if you are in a crash. So if you get a loan on your vehicle, that's what's going to be, they're going to look for. If you do not have a loan, you own it outright, liability will be the bare minimum. So this is a example of what an insurance card looks like. It's going to have your policy number, the day it starts, the day it ends. This will be your information here, the vehicle VIN number, what the vehicle is that is being insured. Where do you think you should keep this?
$12.
$12. In Washington State, you can have a picture of your insurance card on your phone. You don't have to have your actual insurance card with you in the car. It's a good idea to have, you have to have your registration in there anyways. Might as well just keep it with it. But if you don't, and you just have a picture of it, then that is acceptable in this state. You'll just have to show, if you get pulled over for speeding, they're going to ask you for license, registration, and proof of insurance. For your proof of insurance, you can show the cop just a picture of it. Another place some people keep it's just like in the visor, the sun visor up above. There's little clips up there on some cars. They'll put their registration and their insurance up there. But you want to keep it somewhere that you know where it's at and you can get to it while you're still sitting in the driver's seat. You won't have to get out. If you do get pulled over, you'll have to get it. Here's some factors that will affect insurance rates. So like your driving record, the more tickets you have, more accidents is going to make your rate go up. You're going to be a riskier investment for them, so they're going to charge you more. Your age will also be a big factor. If you think about it, a lot of the crashes in Washington State, the biggest age range is from 16 to 25. And so if you're 16 to 25, it's going to cost you more for insurance than after that. Once you hit 25, though, it usually goes down. Some of the miles driven, so how far you're driving, if you're going to work, going wherever, but the more you're driving, the more it's going to cost for insurance because the more risk they have because you're on the road more. The driver's gender. So going off statistics, males generally pay almost 2 times as much as females for insurance. Guys are more likely to be involved in high-speed accidents from what they've noticed. And so a lot of insurance companies will charge you more. Your marital status, the type of vehicle. So type of vehicle, like if it's a sports car that they're going to think that you're driving faster and doing a lot more things you probably shouldn't, they're going to charge you more. If you have a 4-door car, it's going to be charged a lot less. Maybe not a lot less, but less than like a sports car. So the type of vehicle does matter. It just, what it has or what it is. The address. So your address is going to change. It's going to be a factor in insurance rates because depending on where you live, if you live in downtown Portland, there's a higher chance of something happening to your vehicle where you need insurance, getting vandalized or something, where it won't be nearly as high here in Longview. So your address, depending on where you're at, will change how much it costs. The claim record is how much you've used your insurance. So if you had a car stolen and you had to claim it on insurance and got paid out for it, and then you speed and get tickets, and then you also get into minor accidents where insurance has to get involved and pay stuff, it's going to make your rates go up. So they're going to look at how much you actually use your insurance because it'll be a higher risk for them. And then your credit history, that's just going to tell them more or less if you are actually going to pay them. If they feel like they're not going to get paid as much, they're going to charge you more. That's just kind of how that works. Any questions on any of these? So that's basically the insurance stuff and the what to do if you get into an emergency situation. Don't forget, observation drives need to be scheduled, so work on those and figure out who you want to watch, or just let me know. And have a terrific evening. Okay.
What?
Yep, and then put here if you're here on Zoom.
How many people can be